People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.
You can walk around drunk all day.
'Cause it's Friday.
Oh, yes!
Here's to feeling good all the time, huh?
Damn!
What the fuck? What the fuck does that even mean?
For many years, the Vatican has been looking at the same invisible terrestrial entities, and I think also at things like Planet X and other incoming objects. And they well know that our planet will be struck. They know that we're being visited, that we're being monitored, and that they are covering all of this up. Part of it is to, keep us in the dark so that we don't panic, sort of a thing. But the other is to maintain control over us.
What we have learned is that reality is much bigger than we originally supposed. Reality consists not only of things that we can see and observe with our eyes and ordinary telescopes, but things that we can't see with our eyes.
To maintain power and control over the masses, you deny them the information, you deny them the education, you deny them the truth. So this disclosure project is formulated in such a way as to hide the truth. They are going, and I'll cut to the chase here, as I like to do, they will in disclosure say that we are being visited and have been visited by intelligent entities who in fact are, as I describe them, the benevolent ancestors from the stars.
Our discoveries of invisible terrestrial entities has been independently verified by American astronomers, also according to publications available in the internet.
I think that the disclosure will be that they are saying our ancestors have come here to rescue us from ourselves, to solve all of the world's problems. And we need to turn ourselves over to these ancestors, follow their lead, follow their technology, do whatever we're told, because they are benevolent. And it is quite the opposite. There is nothing benevolent about what is about to come upon this earth.
Welcome to the WTF Files. The ultimate aim of all science, to penetrate the unknown. The greatest mystery is right here, right under our feet. These are the stories that will make you say, WTF.
A lot of new topics have popped up, not just CERN, but antimatter and all kinds of occult, nefarious things happening.
When are you coming down to join us in hell? From the looks of things, pretty soon, huh?
There's just a lot that's coming together, what I like to call the coalescence of topics that are falling under the large umbrella of disclosure.
Since the dawn of our civilization, all the way to the time of this breaking news, we humans believed that everything that exists up there is only what we can see with our eyes and with our optical instruments. Well, things have changed now, because we have established the existence of entities existing in our terrestrial environment. And these entities are completely invisible to our eyes as well as to our optical instruments, but are fully visible with new instruments, therefore dramatically enlarging our conception of the perceivable universe, with far-reaching possibility of future development and discoveries that perhaps are beyond our imagination at this time.
You look at the images that are captured on a standard single reflex lens camera, This is a binocular or a dual telescope that has been set up, and they're fairly small. I mean, they're just, things that you can carry around yourself. We're not talking about an observatory like Mount Graham in Arizona, but we'll get to that in a moment. But this is a project, and, in the past, you've heard me talk about the Thunderbolts project in terms of the electric universe. Well, this is a similar name in the sense it's called Thunder Energies Corporation. So, a little synchronicity going on with the names there, but Thunder Energies is out of Florida, and Dr. Santilli is the chief scientist at Thunder Energies Corporation, and he's the one who has been doing, I would say, about 50 years of research into antimatter itself, and has developed his own mathematical language, which is a complete departure from the standard model of mathematical language of trigonometry and that sort of thing that is used in standard physics, standard science today to write out the theorems and the formula that we typically see in science.
This is the greatest scientific discovery since Copernicus. It's bigger than Copernicus. The idea that we're not alone, it'll change everything. We have physical evidence.
He describes mathematically antimatter by not simply putting a negative sign in front of the standard model mathematics and calling it good. He's actually come up with a whole new language of mathematical formula and symbols. So, with that said, he has also developed a new form of telescope.
The revolutionary Santilli telescope is designed to detect antimatter in deep space. By antimatter, we mean an entity with characteristics that are the exact opposite of ordinary matter, including the index of refraction of light, which is opposite. As you can see in the diagram, we have two telescopes, the Santilli and the Galileo. Now, if you look closely, you'll see that the only real difference between the two is the lens. Notice that the Galileo uses a convex lens, whereas the Santilli telescope uses a concave lens. Now, when ordinary light passes through the Galileo telescope with the convex lens, that lens focuses the light and can be recorded, or the image recorded, by a digital camera. Should antimatter light pass through the convex lens, it would merely be dispersed along the walls of the telescope and not be focused at all. Now, the exact opposite happens with the Santilli telescope. When antimatter light passes through the concave lens, it is then focused and provides an image that can be recorded by a digital camera. Ordinary light would be dispersed among the walls of the telescope.
What they're showing in the camera are actually streaks of black, streaks of darkness, as opposed to streaks of light. In a Galileo or typical telescope, you're seeing streaks of light on a photographic image. In this case, we're seeing streaks of darkness, and they could be assigned as artifact when you first look at them. But I really dug into his curriculum vitae, and this gentleman is a upstanding scientist. Hundreds and hundreds of published articles in journals, several books that he has put out, I'd say at least a dozen, awards all over the place. And yet, philosophically, he is counter. He is going against the mainstream science world. And of course, that fits with his study of antimatter and sort of a, graphical representation. But philosophically, he's really trying to uncover what the mainstream science world is trying to cover up. And he has actually filed lawsuits against other scientists who have tried to, slander his name and deny him funding in the grants process. But the long and short of it is this gentleman is on his own path of research. He is not hamstrung by mainstream science. He is looking outside the box. He is changing the paradigm of what we're looking at in the universe. And he has, just late last year, actually with thorough vetting and thorough peer review, has proven that he has detected antimatter, and he, as he calls them, antimatter entities.
Galileo originally conceived and constructed his telescope for discovery in deep space. But as we all know, Galileo telescope is today used for all sorts of terrestrial view. Our telescope had essentially the same fate, because it was originally conceived for the detection of antimatter galaxy way deep into space. However, to our great surprise, we discovered that our telescope can equally detect entities in our terrestrial environment that are completely invisible to our eyes, to our binoculars, or to Galileo telescope, but are fully visible in cameras attached to our telescope, for which reason we call them invisible terrestrial entities, ITE. We have detected at least two types of ITE. The first type, also called dark ITE, essentially consists of entities leaving a dark image in the background of digital cameras attached to our new telescope. And the second type, called bright ITE, essentially consists of entities leaving this time a bright image in the background of digital camera attached to our telescope, often visible without any enlargement.
Yeah, in their photographic images, not only are they seeing dark streaks, but they're actually seeing light and dark objects that are moving on the photographic film. Now, I haven't seen any video images, but they are showing and they're publishing still images. I'm sure they're capturing video as well, but they are not emitting light. What they're actually doing, they are annihilating matter. Well, when that happens, there is energy released. This is very similar to a nuclear fission, not a fusion, but a fission type of reaction where you're seeing the splitting of atoms and then energy is released in the form of photons and gamma rays and alpha and beta rays. But anyway, the point is they're light and dark because of the energy levels that they give off, depending on the type of annihilation and the type of material that they're encountering, causing that annihilation. But this is a whole new form of physics. The thing that is so important is that not only are we saying, hey, it appears that by definition they're seeing ghosts or spirits. I mean, that's monumental enough to say you can see spirits with a telescope. But to actually prove that there is antimatter that perhaps, now he doesn't go to that, I'm making the leap, but if he's defining it as an entity, it is possible that it's intelligent.
I'm a scientist, formerly from MIT, Harvard, and other leading institutions around the world. As such, my duty is that of documenting the existence, quote unquote, of those entities. The question what those entities are must be answered by our government, because those entities appear to conduct unauthorized surveillance of rather sensitive civilian, industrial, and military installations.
I'm beginning to see that there's some crossover in my areas of research. I think Dr. Santilli has hit upon something legitimate. Again, it's been thoroughly vetted and peer-reviewed, his research and his findings and his evidence. One of the crossovers I'd like to step into that this video presents is the connection to the Vatican, their Lucifer telescope. Because he's using a binocular, a dual telescope array, it's not hard to make the leap to the large binocular telescope near infrared utility with camera and integral field unit for extragalactic research, otherwise known as Lucifer. And that's the dual telescope arrangement at the Vatican Observatory on Mount Graham in Tucson, Arizona. I think there's a correlation, and this is what I think it is. I think that the Vatican for well over 10 years has been observing antimatter entities, the same that Dr. Santilli has been viewing in his much smaller telescopes. And thus I think Dr. Santilli is revealing to us part of the hidden agenda that is involved with the larger program, the larger umbrella that we can throw over a lot of areas to science. And that umbrella is disclosure.
What do you think I should do?
Lenny, officially, the church will not take any position on the religious implications of these phenomena. Personally, Lenny, I think it's a sign from God. But don't quote me on that.
I will say that I believe that Dr. Santilli is being truthful and factual. I think he is seeing entities that exist within our realm of existence, within our dimension. Based upon what he has presented, I will say that he is not looking at interdimensional entities. Is he looking at spiritual entities? Because he's purposefully using the word entity and defining it as an entity which is also defined as a ghost or a spirit. Now, if we want to make the leap, and I'll say this, if we can say that spirits can move from one dimension to another, that ghosts come from another dimension that we don't, with our senses, interact with on a normal, regular, daily basis.
I spent an hour last night in my bedroom talking to Fiorello LaGuardia, and he's been dead for 40 years.
It's not hard to make that leap to say that we are seeing entities coming from another dimension.
I've only been with the company for a couple of weeks, but I gotta tell you, these things are real. Since I joined these men, I have seen shit that'll turn you white.
So if I'm making my own conclusion here that he is looking at an interdimensional entity or multiple entities, what is going on here in the greater scheme of things is to obfuscate, to cover up, to deny us the truth. Now, X-Files always talk about, the truth is out there. Well, it is. And I think the powers that be, however you want to define that, will go to great lengths to try to hide the truth from us. And in the case of, if we're talking about ITEs, invisible terrestrial entities, and if we're talking about what the Vatican is doing with their telescope, but for the benefit of those that may not have heard this subject before, predictive programming, if you will, mind control of the masses, has been going on through Hollywood and mainstream media for many, many years to get us ready for this false revelation that's coming, the grand deception. The grand deception is that there is a race somewhere out there in the cosmos that started our life form, that started the human race. And they're coming back to visit us. They're coming back to visit us because they're concerned that we're going to destroy ourselves. And so they're going to save us. The deception is that this is the original lie coming from the Garden of Eden.
I need to know why. What did we do wrong? Why do you hate us?
If she opens her mouth again, shoot her.
It's been a controlled release, and there's not a lot of information out there other than just really the surface material that we're presenting right here today.